Is there anything scarier than being alone with your own thoughts?
Nah, not really.
No.
No, not really.
No, really, no.
Flowermen and thumpers and people with shovels are pretty scary.
What's up everyone, my name is KleinStein and today I'll be talking about the game that keeps me up at night, Lethal Company, and how it managed to go viral despite only being made by one person. This is The Rise of Lethal Company. Lethal Company is a co-op horror game made by Zeekerss. In Lethal Company, you play as a way too underpaid intern at the company. You and your friends, who are also employees at the company, set out to explore industrialized moons. In the tunnels and rooms within the moon, you'll find scrap that you must collect to meet a certain quota. If you don't, well, let's just say you're replaceable. The time limit isn't the only thing that's stopping you from reaching your quota though. Within the narrow corridors and jumps I know for a fact you've failed before are monsters, such as hoarding bugs, spore lizards, slimes, spiders, and many more, who all act in unique ways to try and stop you. And that's about all there is to Lethal Company if we look purely at the game mechanics. Now that everyone is up to speed about what Lethal Company is, let's talk about the person who made Lethal Company and what led up to the release of the game. I was shocked when I found out Lethal Company was made by just one person. That person being Zeekerss. Zeekerss had been making games long before Lethal Company. They started making games when they were 11. At first just making Roblox games, but gradually moving towards making standalone games, with their first official Steam release being It Steals. Looking at gameplay footage of It Steals, we can clearly see a lot of similarities in art style and even some reused items such as the Raider boost. Zeekerss also made two other games before releasing Lethal Company, those being Dead Cedar and The Upturned, both in the same reoccurring art style. Development for Lethal Company saw right after the release of The Upturned, since the first devlog about Lethal Company was posted on Zeekerss' Patreon on the 12th of May 2022. In an update a month later, they state that Phase 1 of programming was done, which meant the basis of the game was finished. Stuff like movement, game physics, and multiplayer were all part of Phase 1. Phase 2 would be all about the actual gameplay loop and map generation, the phase where the game really begins to feel like a game. Whereas Phase 3 would be all about making content, like enemies and items to be randomly discovered while exploring. After this post, the announcement trailer for Lethal Company was posted to Zeekerss' YouTube channel only a month later. In this trailer we can see that originally there was supposed to be an elevator that could take you deeper into the facility. I personally really like the idea of using an apparatus to progress deeper into the moon, and I hope it returns at some point with a different function. The default jumpsuit were also brown and not orange. I saw a fan-made anime called the Long Lost Crewmate, and I hope that if that ever gets added to the game, it will wear the original brown suit instead of an orange one, as a nod to the older version. After the announcement trailer, the development didn't slow down. I want to go over some of the noteworthy things that got changed or added to the game in Phase 2 and 3. Originally, Lethal Company was gonna play a lot more like Five Nights at Freddy's, being more of a time management horror game. Zeekerss explains it like this, quote, "To describe it in another way, it's a game of horror whack-a-mole, spread out across a large map in which the moles will escape and terrorize you if you don't get them fast enough." End quote. Eventually, this idea got scrapped as it would simply be too much to manage all at once. I briefly touched upon the elevator that got removed from the game when talking about the announcement trailer. The reason for its deletion was to simplify the gameplay, and because it made the player's ship and moon surface feel kinda redundant, since it would essentially just do the same thing. Zeekerss explained it twice on their Patreon with these two graphics, essentially just listing all of the reasons why using the elevator as initially planned is just bad game design. I, however, hope to see it return with a different function. I think it might find a place somewhere within the company building. Maybe it could have something to do with the drill that's currently present on that moon, which also utilizes the apparatuses and has been teased by Zeekerss in another Patreon post, stating, quote, "This drill is the next and last important system I'm planning to add to the game, which sort of ties it all together. I'm not gonna explain it." End quote. From an update video showcasing some new features, we can also see an instability meter, which is never, visually at least, reintroduced. But it's used to give each player a different ambient noise experience. If you're alone for a long time, your sanity goes down and you hear more and more strange noises. You also used to be able to land at any time of the day, which seems really weird in hindsight, but the idea was that this would make the world feel more real in some way, since it could be morning on one planet and midnight on another, and players would be pushed to take risks and stay up late to get as much scrap as possible. This wasn't the case, however. From playtesting, it turned out that players would just leave around noon every day, no matter how much progress they had made, and just fly to another planet where it was 6 AM, easily chasing the safe daylight hours, so this feature was eventually scrapped. After doing loads more bug fixes and small additions that really added up over time, the game was released on the 23rd of October 2023. This still leaves the question how it became so popular. Why Lethal Company became as popular as it is a mix between a lot of appealing game mechanics and a little bit of luck. For starters, having the game use proximity chat is simply genius. It makes the horror setting of the game feel much more realistic, being truly alone when everyone is out of range. And it can also produce some really funny moments, since your voice gets abruptly cut off when you die. This means that much like Among Us, it was perfect for content creation, being a really good game for streamers to play live and short format clips to be made afterwards. This all combined with the fact that the game can run on even the most potato of PCs and it only costing $10 means that the game had and still has a huge word of mouth marketing impact. This all gets reflected when we look at the active players on Steam, where it currently has an all-time peak player count of 240,000 players. So we've got an incredibly successful game made by one person that's super entertaining to watch and play. I truly believe that Lethal Company will become an indie horror game staple, and with the dedication shown by Zeekerss, I can't wait to see what it becomes when it finally goes out of early access. Oh yeah, did I mention that? It's not even out of early access! And looking at the latest update, version 45, the future is promising. That's all I've got for you today, guys. Have a good one.